I work at a Walmart as AP, and if you don't know what AP is, it's asset protection. Pretty much my job is to catch people trying to steal from Walmart. If you go to any Walmart, we're usually all around you, but we're dressed in normal clothing so that we blend in. I'm not sure if I was supposed to tell you that, but whatever. Anyway, it was a Friday and I noticed this one guy walking around the store looking very suspicious. And what I mean by that is when he first walked into Walmart, he had his hands buried deep in a sweatshirt. He had this look on his face that he was up to something. He also had holes all in his sweater. His jeans were super dirty and they were hanging past his ass crack. So I began to tail him throughout the store. And after he made a few laps around the electronics department, I saw him make a beeline for the restrooms nearby. Now, I didn't go in when he did because I didn't want him to know that I was onto him. So I just waited directly outside the bathrooms instead. Within seconds, I can hear this guy making weird noises, like angry growling noises. Then I could hear him flushing the toilet like 20 times. At this point, I said fuck it, and I was going to go in and see what the hell he was doing. Just as I took a step forward, the man then sprinted out of the bathroom, looking horrified and distressed. He pushed past me and headed to the front. I radioed for management to be on the lookout for this guy heading their way and entered the bathroom to see what he was doing. When I walked in, there was running water everywhere. It seemed to be coming from the end stall. I pushed it open and saw water was gushing from the toilet. It was gushing because something large was sticking out of it, like the dude was trying to flush whatever it was down the toilet. When I got closer and realized that what the man was trying to flush down was a fucking severed human hand. Like, I'm talking veins and bones and everything was sticking out. It took everything in me not to puke all over the floor. Thankfully, when I radioed for management to be on the lookout for this dude, a cop was patrolling nearby and was able to detain him because, unfortunately, in Walmart, we're not allowed to touch customers even when they try to discard human body parts. A full investigation was launched, and we even had to shut down Walmart for like 2 days, but we did end up getting some answers. The dude who tried to flush the hand down the toilet was someone living on the streets. A group of men that he claims he doesn't know their names offered him $5,000 to get rid of this severed hand. So he thought the best way to go about it was to go into a Walmart and flush it down a toilet. I believe the police are still trying to trace the bills that they used to pay the man. But as I'm writing this, those groups of men have not been caught yet, and I'm assuming they're drug or gang related. I still work there as an AP, and nothing comes close to how crazy that day was. I used to work at Walmart a few years ago, taking the night shift after closing the store. As a merchandise store associate, I worked overnight to unload shipping items from the truck trailer, and since it was more physical than cognitive, it wasn't as demanding as working at the cash register. All I had to do was get used to it, and once it became routine, I could subconsciously complete my tasks. The pay was much more, of course, since I had to work during the graveyard hours, but this job came at a price. No, I didn't get into an accident or robbed or anything of that nature. It's just that I often heard weird noises across the establishment, especially in the attic. I'd always come across stories about paranormal activities occurring in the attic. For reasons I couldn't understand, it seemed to be a popular dwelling place for ominous entities. I had never been assigned to the attic. In fact, no one really goes there anyway, so I imagined it was simply a storage room for a lot of stuff we no longer use. But occasionally I was caught off guard by creaks, scratching noises, and sounds that gave me the impression that something was being dragged across the floor. However, before getting any crazy ideas, I repeatedly told myself that the building was either old or that raccoons were getting in somehow. The bad news is that since I started working here, my boss constantly ranted about losing inventory in the food section, including clothes and appliances, which I had checked multiple times during my shift, only to find out later that some of them had gone missing. A series of similar events have been occurring quite frequently at the store, and without a logical explanation, it eventually became a mystery to me since I didn't steal anything and was sure I punched the numbers correctly. I almost lost my job because of what was happening. But every time I was accused at work, I told my boss that I was only doing my job with no idea what the hell was going on. Then, one night, I heard the same weird noises again around the store while doing the usual routine. But instead of ignoring them this time, I decided to investigate. As I roamed around the store, I looked up and down each aisle at the electronics section, the toy section, and finally around the food aisles, but I couldn't find anything. That is, until I reached the frozen food aisles and saw one of the most disturbing things that made my heart stop. It was two individuals crouching next to the freezer, stuffing their faces. One of them appeared to be an old lady, and her companion appeared to be an old man. They didn't care to stop eating, despite being caught red-handed. I was in utter shock, coming to the realization that I wasn't alone and potentially in danger. "Do you guys need any help?" I asked them. "No, can you just show us where the chips are?" the man said. I then pointed towards the chip island and nervously said, "It should be over there." I cautiously stepped backward as the couple proceeded to continue eating while looking at me with the most crazy stare. When I finally backed up enough to the point that I was out of view, I made a run for it, dashing across the store until I locked myself inside one of the office rooms hidden underneath the table. I took out my phone and immediately called the cops. I stuttered as my mind went blank. It didn't seem like the pair had followed me. The operator remained on the other end of the line as she dispatched a few units to the Walmart I was in. As I sat there desperately waiting for the cops to arrive, I could feel my heart pumping out of my chest. Every minute of just sitting and waiting felt like eternity. Sweat began trickling from my forehead. I could hear noises from outside, but could not identify what they were. Despite my fears, I remained still, preventing myself from panicking, and moments later, I could hear someone turning the knob violently, like whoever was on the other side wanted to come in. I thought of calling out to the person to ask who they were, but hesitated since it could only get me in more trouble. Convinced I was going to have to fight for my life, I grabbed a pair of scissors, holding it up like a knife. It was evident that the person behind the door was getting more desperate. They started banging on the doors as if they were trying to break it down. Just then, the door busted open. I then screamed hysterically, but then I realized it was just law enforcement. I quickly disclosed what happened and told them where I last saw the suspects. The police didn't allow me to leave the room for standard safety protocol measures since the suspects were still at large. A few minutes later, I was informed that the pair were immediately apprehended. After further investigation, it was discovered that the pair were a homeless couple living in the Walmart attic the entire time. When the authorities investigated the attic, they found expired food items and missing inventory scattered throughout the floor. But what baffled me the most was how it was alleged the couple had been living there for over 2 years. All this time knowing that I wasn't alone while working the night shift just creeps the hell out of me. All I know is that the men or women were highly capable of strangling me and could have easily done so, and because of that, I never felt safe working at Walmart ever again. This happened last year. I was shopping at my local Walmart, just doing some typical shopping on a random weeknight. The store was pretty quiet and it was probably like 8 or 9 p.m. I'd been in the store for about 15 minutes or so, and I was in the aisle where they have the fitness items. I was looking at one of those massage guns. I wasn't planning on buying one that day or even buying one at Walmart, but I'd been considering getting one. When I walked by, I noticed it and stopped to read the box. I was in the aisle looking at it for a few minutes, and when I was doing so, I remember doing some voices in the next aisle over. It happened to be a toy aisle, and this was sort of the back corner of the store. I heard a man's voice and then the voice of a child. At first, I paid no attention as I was looking, but soon I heard the man say, "I will buy you this toy if you come with me." I assumed it was the child's father at first, but I didn't really know why he would say that. I couldn't really make out what the kid said to him, but I heard the man then say something like, "Your mom said it's okay." Then I just had the crazy thought that maybe this wasn't the child's father. The man started saying, "Come on, let's go," a couple of times. I heard him starting to walk to the end of the aisle. I just had a really bad feeling about it. At the time, I didn't know if I was just being nosy or if I should do something. I decided to walk by the island and glance down it to see. I left the aisle that I was in and walked into the next one over, which was a toy aisle, and when I looked down, I saw a man wearing a black jacket and winter hat, holding the hand of a little kid and leading her to the other end of the aisle. Their backs were facing me. I was kind of thinking on the fly, and I said excuse me to the guy. He turned around and looked really surprised. I picked up some random toy from the shelf. It was some type of stuffed animal. I said I wanted to ask the man in question if this would be a good gift for my niece. I then started walking over to them. He said he had no idea, and I said I thought he might know. I then asked if that was his daughter. He said no when he was just watching her for the moment. But then he said they really had to get going. Him and the child then walked away. I really wasn't sure if I should believe him or not. Maybe I was making too much of it. I realized it probably was a reasonable explanation, and I turned and started walking in the opposite direction. I was telling myself that nothing was wrong and I was just paranoid, but I'm not even kidding. About 30 seconds later, I heard a woman's voice calling out a name. For this story, let's just say the name was Sarah. The woman was calling out Sarah. Not really loud, but enough for people in the aisles nearby to hear, including me. I walked towards the voice and found the woman a few aisles down and more towards the center of the store. When I reached her, I asked if Sarah was her daughter. She looked concerned and said yes. I had a terrible feeling, and I said that I might have seen your daughter with a man, and I thought they might be leaving. We both started sprinting towards the front of the store. The good thing is that this was probably less than a minute since I had seen the man. When we made it to the front of the store, we saw the man and the child at the self-checkouts area. He was buying one of the toys for her. The girl's mother started shouting, and the man claimed he was just trying to be nice and buy the toy for the girl, but he quickly tried to run away. After realizing nobody would believe that, he ran out the door and was able to momentarily get away. I was just happy that the girl was okay and back with her mother. It turned out that the girl had wandered off from her mother to look at toys while her mom was shopping in another area of the store. The mother had believed their child was nearby when she had actually wandered off much further. I also found out that the eye was located not long after this at all.